Welcome, everyone. This is Michael and Honey, and we're excited to share our relationship series on how to live from a place of higher love. And today's episode is about placing God Almighty first versus placing Him on the sidelines.
Exactly. God Almighty is the foundation of everything, and in particular when it comes to relationship. And this is an area that we have had to restructure quite a bit. And it is from here that we're speaking about how important it is that we have allowed God Almighty into our lives, into ourselves individually, and we brought into relationship, and what a difference it has been. So let's talk about what it was like before we did it.
Yes, I know it was very challenging for me because
Mm.
I didn't have the devotion or the practice or the strength of God Almighty
Yeah.
as you did, honey.
Well, you mean it's more like the discipline
The
in the
discipline. And I recognize I was looking for love more outwardly, seeking love for you for my happiness, seeking it for a joy outside of me versus claiming that God Almighty first within myself.
right. And I was as well, because I was still, even though I had the connection with God Almighty, I was disciplined and devoted, yet it wasn't to the strength that it is now. So I was also expecting it from you,
Right.
which you were very generous with your love. However, it was more of a coming from a shortcoming or not full expression of it.
Or like you saw this like a needy place.
Held back.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
almost like had to require it from you
Right.
to make myself feel I was loved
Right.
versus what I recognize first thing in the morning and meeting that God Almighty presence first so that I could fill that cup up in God's strength, in God's security, in God's way that really helped me dissolve a lot of the insecurities and a lot of the areas that you saw me
Yeah.
first in the relationship that really felt incomplete.
Yeah, yeah, and it was it brought a lot of hurt and suffering into us individually, including myself, because even though again, like the connection with God Almighty was there, the level that it has turned into has freed me. I feel like one of the things that brought with me when I put God Almighty first. For me, I remember the day when I said, Michael, you know what? I'm married to God Almighty first, then you. And when I placed God Almighty fully first, and then from there met in our relationship, allow the overflow of God Almighty into our relationship, that really, really shifted. And I believe, maybe mistaken, but I do believe that that's when it was the turning point that inspired you to also start like allowing more of that in and pulling it into the relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw how joyful you were,
Yeah.
how each morning you woke up with this invigorated level of energy.
Yeah.
And I was a bit surprised because I'm like, how does this person every morning wake up like a jackrabbit filled with this God's love? And then I recognized, wait a minute, I wasn't doing the same. I was meeting spirit, universe outside of myself, but I wasn't claiming that God's love first thing in the
Yeah.
morning. And don't you feel, honey, there's this level of energy of infinite rejuvenation,
Yeah.
recharge, recalibration, because when we meet that, especially first thing in the morning, there's this flowing of God's love that naturally wants to move and express through us.
Totally, totally. For me, when I wake up in that morning, I can feel I'm charged when I'm sitting in that space, just allowing myself to receive, allowing my human to receive the blessings of God Almighty into the day. And as I open myself more to receive the blessings into the day, I found myself being more fulfilled, more happier, more content, more joyous, more vibrating, more just healthier emotionally, mentally, spiritually, on every level. And I notice it's from there I'm pouring even greater into the relationship, taking bolder choices, making crazier, wonderful decisions, and and the more that, because it's the God Almighty is the God of all plenty. It's plentiful, it's overflowing. And as I began, that started pouring into our relationship. And I noticed it took our relationship that seemed to maybe be a little bit dim in its light to this bright, overflowing light. And it began to ride in a different direction. And and because you also started allowing more of that come in. So it seemed to fuel it in this way and filling it, which was amazing, incredible. And it allowed things that were impossible to become possible. It allowed us to be put in positions that we typically wouldn't be, meet people that we wouldn't have, and all sorts of doors of possibilities open up for us in our relationship.
I totally feel that and realize it's this overflow of this God's love that brings what we've seen personally,
Yeah.
greater prosperity, greater abundance, greater joy. And what we know deep in our heart is an area to share that, because I feel a lot of us, especially me, growing up, we looked for this love, but it wasn't quite this divine, godly love.
Yeah.
It was an area that we felt that we were looking for love in all the wrong places, yet it was already within us. That's why I feel we're so excited to share this to so many.
Yes, and we're going to go more into some of these topics because it was also when we put God Almighty first and we started really strengthening ourselves in that individually and brought into relationship, that really allowed some of the challenges that we really faced, which we're going to talk about in another series, how it was this God Almighty's love that allowed us to go through these challenges in a really beautiful, supportive way. Otherwise, ordinarily we would have been like, nope,
Yeah.
like we can't survive this, you
I'm
know?
glad you said that, because
Yeah.
I feel many of us, we go through these challenges, yet it's been God Almighty's presence, that
Yeah.
love within, that has allowed us to move directly through the heat of fire versus placing it outside of us. We
Right.
know by bringing that and embodying that within, it has been our seed, our definite evolution of our higher love.
And I would say the foundation of understanding, inner standing, heart standing, love has been really changed. The foundation of it has really changed on the inside for us because God Almighty's love is far superior than a human love.
Yeah.
It really, really gave us the power to experience a lot of things.
Right.
And that to me has been the most incredible experience to be a witness.
And it's amazing because it's just the beginning.
Right.
Once we tap into that God Almighty love, it feels like this bubbling spring that
Yeah.
just keeps overflowing.
That's
And the
right.
more that we overflow that into our lives, it feels like each challenge, each situation, each conflict starts to naturally dissolve.
Exactly. And we pour it out into, it's like a pocket of blessings,
Yeah.
right? We're pouring it into our friends, into our family, into our community. And this is why we call this as a foundation. It's so important for this to be the foundation. And we're going to talk more about this on our upcoming masterclass on, yes, Saturday.
February 14th, Valentine's Day. How special, honey.
Exactly. It's going to be 12 p.m. Go ahead and register. It is a free masterclass. We're going to go deeper into this space with those of you who are really interested in giving yourself the possibility to truly live from a higher love in a relationship.
And how can they register, honey?
Just go ahead and email us at info@ascensionalchemists.com. Information is going to be in the bottom, and we'll happily see you there.
We're so excited for this amazing event that we just share from the passions of our heart.
And we'll see you on our next episode.
Much love and many blessings.